Family, the family of God. Somos familia, familia de Dios. Yes, we are. This is how. This is how the King comes. Venga tu reino, venga tu reino. This is how the kingdom comes. Venga tu reino, venga tu reino. This is how the kingdom comes. Venga tu reino, venga tu reino. This is how the kingdom comes. Venga tu reino, venga tu reino. This is how the kingdom comes. Venga tu reino, venga tu reino. This is how the kingdom comes. Venga tu reino, venga tu reino. We are a family, the family of God. Somos familia, familia de Dios. We are a family, the family of God. Somos familia, familia de Dios. We are a family, the family of God. Somos familia, familia de Dios. We are a family, the family of God. Somos familia, familia de Dios. Familia de Dios. Let's sing who we are a family, the family of God. Somos familia, familia de Dios. We are a family, the family of God. Somos familia, familia de Dios. You may be seated.
Buenas tardes, church. Good to see you. Oh, we can sit down. Okay, we're being classy. I like that. Hey, today's a big day in so many ways. Today is our 3rd anniversary as a church. Can we give it up, celebrate? Steph, good to see you, sis. This is also our last day in this building, in this space at 789 North Altadena Drive. So rather than maybe clapping, let's just take an exhale. Let's just take a breath. Look around at the stained glass, maybe for just a moment. If this has been home for you at some point over the 2 years that we've been here, maybe just close your eyes for a second. Replay the tape of some of those memories that have happened in this space. We believe place matters. We'll do some time to share, but when I was thinking about this space in particular, this was the first church building where I ever heard a pastora give an Easter sermon in my life. So breakthroughs, all sorts of things have happened in this space, boundaries that have been torn down. Pastora, you want to welcome us? Tell us a little bit about who we are as a church.
Yes, if you're visiting us for the first time, my name is Ines, and I'm one of the co-lead pastors with my brother here, Bobby, of the church we hope for. We are a beloved community moved by the Spirit to follow the life, love, and justice of Jesus. We believe that you can't have Jesus without justice, and you can't have justice without joy. So the deeper the desire for justice, the deeper also the desire for joy. So if you're visiting us for the first time, welcome. If you are returning, welcome. If you're familia, welcome. Since you are familia, everyone is welcome. So we are excited to be celebrating this last time that we're here today. And then for those of you who don't know, this building was sold to another church, and so we're moving up the road, just 4 blocks up the road. So one of the things that we wanted to do today is remember this place. We know that it's about the people of God, It's not about the place. If anything, the pandemic taught us that we were able to worship as a body of Christ without a building. How many of you were here for Zoom church when church started in Zoom? If you want to raise your hands. Yes, we were able to be the body of Christ without a building. And we know it's not about the place, but place holds memory. Place holds important memory. And so we want to today give a time for the ritual of remembrance, for the ritual of grief, for saying goodbye to this place, to remember the good things, the lament moments, silly things, funny things, sad things, whatever it is. We're not going to have a sermon today, but we're going to have a time of communal sharing. And the prompt will be, what is the prompt? This is the place, my glasses.
This is the place where.
This is the place where, I have my notes. This is a place where. And so I'd like to share some things about this place. This is a place where. Bobby's going to do the same. And then we're going to invite for a time for you also to share. This is a place where. We want to do tweets, not blog posts, okay? That goes for us pastors too, very, very briefly.
Well, no, tweet. It's not even called tweeting anymore, so I can do whatever I want, right?
X or something. I'm not sure what is happening. Mm-hmm. However, we all want to share. And as part of the communal sharing, our collaboration team, the grant team, has created a beautiful, beautiful artistic embodiment of the ritual of grief, of saying goodbye to this place. And so I'd like to invite Selena to come up before we do the sharing to tell us about this. Yes, hello Selena, hey! To tell us about this artistic embodiment of place, so.
Hi guys. Yeah, the grant team and myself were just thinking of a way that we could do some sort of community art project. And Mondo had this idea of doing some sort of weaving or tapestry. And so this is what we came up with. It's inspired, the colors are inspired by the stained glass. And everyone will have a chance to come up and put a yarn up there however they want, stay however long they want. And then we get to take it with us to the next building. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be, do you want me to do an example? Yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect. Kids can do it. You can, weave through the bands.
How are you going to say it doesn't have to be perfect, and then it's masterful?
If I'm going to stand, I realize if I'm going to stand here and tell you guys to weave, that I actually have to sit here and weave. So.
That's gorgeous. I love it. I love it.
Oh, yeah, at the end, it will be several different pieces of all different shapes and colors and sizes, and it's, it's a representation of how we're all connected and how we're all woven together in this space and then the next space.
So this next song, I think, is fitting for the colors in the room today, the colors of who we are as people in the rock-hewn stained glass and the balloons and the celebration and the colors that God invites us to embrace in the beautiful oneness and diversity of this church. Also, this space will be open for the whole service. So if at any time you feel so led to come and to knit and to share perfectly, imperfectly, we'll also have a time to flip the room, pass the mic, and have some reflection. So this is the place where is the prompt for all of the slow processors, for all of the introverts. This is your time to think about that. And we will give you a buffer for the next 15 minutes until you have to share in any sort of way. So last thing I wanted to do before we sing one more time is I want to give a shout out to Younger People's Church because they are in the room with us today. They made some celebratory shaker, rattler, tambourines. There might still be a couple in the lobby out there if you want to go grab one, young at heart or young at age. Let's stand if you're able. And Jason, Alicia, Elizabeth, will you all lead us in a song?
Thanks so much for standing. I'm excited and honored to continue celebrating Latinx Heritage Month with everyone here. And this next song is going to be deeply familiar to some and completely new and very hard to sing, aka me, for many of us. It's a song that was the song of protest for the United Farm Workers. And in preparation for this, I was watching a video of them, and it's just like a union meeting, and they're all swaying and singing this song. And It was a way for them to declare, to insist, and to even fight injustice with joy. And so God, I just thank you that everything that you're revealing to us through your people, and reveal yourself as where we sing a song. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son las parajitos que vienen de afuera. De colores el arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por esos los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por esos los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera. De colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por esos los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por esos los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Con el kiri, 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 kiri. La gallina, el cara, 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 cara. Los polleros con el pío, 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 pío. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por esos los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. De colores brillantes y finos se viste a la hora. De colores son los mil reflejos que el ser asesora. De colores se viste el diamante que vemos lucir. Y por esos los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. seated if you want, and we continue. I encourage you to continue reflecting, and whenever you're ready to engage.
Thank you for leading us. I have many memories connected to both those songs, so I love it. Children are not an interruption in this church. They are teachers, and so we're gonna let them do what they're doing best right now. They're creating with us, they're co-creating with us, so they're not an interruption. And so they will lead us in that. So we can be sharing as they're doing that, but also you adults, don't be afraid to go up there also and add your string. So I love it. I love how they're teaching us right now. They are weaving stories, and so I wanted to get started with my prompt of this is a place where. I have so many emotions that I don't even know. You know how you feel things first and then you find language to name what you're feeling? So like tomorrow I probably will have something better and more clear to say. So I did write some things down that I don't want to forget. But I also want to be brief because y'all get to hear from me all the time, and I want to get to hear from you. Like, this is the place where, this is where. And as I think back to our little church that started as a house church, and then the pandemic, and then went to Zoom church for a year, and then we came here in fall of 2021, and we've been here for 2 years. When I think of this place, I think this is a place where life and love got disrupted. Life and love got disrupted. And this is a place where faith and table, we all found a new way of belonging. And I think there's a picture up there, Patrick. I'm not sure if there's a picture up there. Yes. So I was like, I went back through like hundreds of pictures and I couldn't find one. Is Melika here? No, I'm not sure. She's probably like, that's my picture. But I was like, I couldn't find one that could gather what I'm thinking. But for those of you who were not here, this is Kamayan Feast. So we're all about disruption, right? Prophetic disruption, the Holy Spirit, just flipping tables, flipping the sacraments, flipping everything. So this was the day that Melika preached. It was Filipino Heritage Month, and we went from sermon to communion. And this is the best communion I've ever had in my life. And so Kamayan Feast is a Filipino tradition, and the huge communion table, for those of you who don't know, was covered in plantain leaves, and then they dumped the rice, and they dumped the meat, and they dumped the shrimp, and they dumped all the food. And I will never forget when Melika said, and I brought some gloves, you know, if y'all want to put some gloves on, but the tradition is to eat with your hands. And it was important because when the Spaniards colonized the Philippines, they said that eating with your hands was uncivilized. When she said that, y'all, I was like, oh, crap. I said, I'm gonna have to eat with my hands today to reimagine and to disrupt what is normative in my mind. So art and food is theological. That communion table is one of the most beautiful tables that we've ever had. And so that was a before picture. I just stood there watching y'all grab your food with your hands and then just putting it in your mouth, you know? And I told my child too, I was like, you will eat with your hands today. I was like doing the opposite of what they tell you when you're growing up. I was, you will eat with your hands, Nash. Today, we're gonna feel the food. We're gonna feel the body of Christ. We're gonna feel everything. And so then that's a close-up of the Kamayan Feast. And so when I think of this place, this is a place where life and love got disrupted, where faith and table got disrupted, and we all found a new way of belonging from the margins, from a decolonized, non-westernized, non-white supremacist Christianity, right? The table got disrupted at Kamayan Feast for me, and I will never forget that picture. And it became the new communion table for me, where all are welcome, no matter who you are, where you come from, who you love. All are welcome to come and bring their bodies to, all bodies are welcome to this table. So this is a place where the table got disrupted. This is a place where the pulpit got disrupted because it was the first time that at Easter, maybe many of you had seen a woman preach. And in 3 years that we have been here, I just want to tell y'all that in the church planting world, pastors who start a church, they don't want to give up the mic, no matter who you are. But in this church, we've had 10 women preach. Thank you, yes. The pulpit got disrupted because we know the pulpit comes with privilege. 10 women preach, not just me, like apart from me, so that we could have 10 women who preach their first sermon, some of them their first sermons ever, or their first sermons here as well. This is a place where familia got disrupted again. I will never forget one of our new members a couple of years ago said, I'm terrified to love again. Because many of us come from backgrounds where we have experienced some sort of church hurt, or we have been disillusioned and disappointed by Christianity that wasn't following the brown Jesus, you know, and the justice of Jesus and the life of Jesus and the love of Jesus. And so here is where familia got disrupted, because some of us were terrified to love again, to make new friends again, to worship in the sanctuary again, because sanctuaries come with memory as well. We didn't just know different faces of people in the pew, but we got to know the pain of people outside of the pew. So I have been in many a white predominant church that wanted to have people of color in the pew that looked like me, but they did not want to be associated with the pain of people of color outside of the pew. And I got tired of that. And I know that you did too. That's why you decided to try again. And so the familia got disrupted because we not only got to know ourselves and our stories, but y'all know that many a time we threw away the sermon. And if it was a difficult time in our nation or in our community, like what happened at Monterey Park, we would throw away the sermon and we would open up the space for lament. Lament is a spiritual practice here. So familia got disrupted because I didn't just know your face, I knew your pain outside. And I am a learner, because just because I'm a person of color and a woman of color, I don't represent all people of color. I needed to also stand in solidarity with others, other familia that doesn't look like me, but they are like me. And so this is the place where the table got disrupted, the pulpit got disrupted, the familia got disrupted, and healing and hope was accelerated. Wounds are being healed as we speak, and new friendships are happening. And I'm just honored to be here. I had coffee with Stacia last week, or this week, and Stacia, you asked me, are you glad that you planted this church, that you started this church? You asked me that, remember? And I was like, yes, I am. I'm really proud, because I'm proud of you all, not of what I did or we did. I'm proud that y'all are here. You are the miracle. You are the miracle. The people of God is the miracle. And the people of God living into the life, love, and justice of Jesus, it's an honor to be able to see it and witness it. So how about you, Bobby? This is a place where?
For me, this is the place where sanctuary was redeemed and restored. After seminary, I felt a call that was clear and hard and confusing and clear to go back home, and ventured back to the Bible Belt South, Central Arkansas, stepped foot in the church that I had known since I was an 8th grade boy, where I first heard the gospel for the first time. And walking into that lobby with my family after we had U-hauled all the way there, on that first Sunday, realizing home isn't home anymore. The lobby felt like it had been fractured. It felt like there were sides. Something had happened in the year 2016, around the month of November, that had exposed the fault lines. And as I stepped back in to be a co-pastor of the church that I grew up in, I realized this was not a safe space for me. And so after year one, my wife and I called Inez and Rod in tears. And we said, we don't believe we're here long term. Can we dream together of a new space, of a new way? And Inez said, well, I've been waiting for you to call for a long time. Yes, I've been praying for this church. I want you to know that this church plant didn't start with a cute idea or vision. There wasn't a vision board. There were tears. it was birthed in brokenness. It was birthed in pain. This idea of the church we hope for, that hope is not a light word. It's not a flighty word. It's not a word that you just put up and it makes you smile with butterflies. It's a longing word. It's an aching word because we couldn't find true belonging before. And so we just wondered, could there be a church that we could hope for again? When we stepped foot in this place, I think Zoom gave us the womb. I feel like Zoom was a safe space for us to have cultivated community together, to begin to define culture of who we are, what we're about. But there was a timidity to stepping back into physical space for all sorts of reasons. But one of them was sanctuary. One of them was stepping back into a church building again, knowing the baggage and the pain for so many of us that were associated with stepping into spaces like this. Sanctuary for so many had been so stolen. And so it wasn't until we stepped into this space together, raised our voices together, sat in silence together, cried together, celebrated together, had that Kamayan feast, which was actually cruel because they were just setting that table in the back of the room behind us the whole service. And we could smell it, but we couldn't see it, and we couldn't eat it until it was time. I have not anticipated the Lord's Supper like that. Lord, give me Jesus now. Shout out to my son Sam last week with communion at Casa Grande when the conchas were out. He's like, when can I have communion? Because he wanted that cookie. He was ready for it. For sanctuary to be redeemed and restored, I wonder if that's many of your stories as well. To let your heart open again, to let hope be possible again. To tell Jesus, as Sandy Shop told us, Jesus, you're going to have to also earn my trust too. And so this was a place where once again, you could step in and feel safety, security, belonging, familia, and a true sense of love. I'll close this by reading just this brief portion from the book of Nehemiah. And I hope one day, I hope we get to this book because it's one of my favorites, Nehemiah. So we're halfway through Nehemiah at this point, and yeah, you should check it out. It's a bestseller. Nehemiah, verse 8, it says, they read from the book of the law of God, making it clear, making it plain, and giving the meaning so the people understood what was being read. These were people who had been without sanctuary for a long time and were just now in movement and migration, returning from exile to be knit together, thread together, woven together as a people again. Then Nehemiah the governor and Ezra the priest and the teacher of the law and the Levites were instructing the people, said to them, this day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep. For all the people had been weeping as they listened to the words of the law. It just cut their heart. Nehemiah said, go instead and enjoy choice food and sweet drinks, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. And the Levites calmed all the people, saying, be still, for this is a holy day. Do not grieve. And then all the people went away to eat and drink, to send portions of food, and to celebrate with great joy, because they now understood the words that had been made known to them. We've spent time weeping together, church, and we'll continue to find times to lament. We know that muscle well. We're going to also celebrate and eat fine, choice foods after the service today as well. So let's have some time to joy as well together.
Did you see that there's agua fresca in the book of the Lord? It says sweet drinks.
Sweet drinks.
And we have agua fresca for
Agua
refreshments
fresca.
also. I'm just saying.
Patrick, I've got a couple of photos. You can just kind of throw them up as we're looking. These are some memories of our time here, some of our first baby dedications, our first time walking into this space before we even signed the paperwork of saying that we're going to be in this space. We also had baptisms in this space. We had our anniversary. We were able to stand up here at our first service together and joy this thing out. And we want to now turn the floor over to you. We want to hear from you, familia. This is the place where. This is the place where. So you said tweets, not blogs?
Tweets, and it could be a silly story, it could be
Yeah.
a funny story, it could be a meaningful story, or a moment where we lamented together. For the online community as well, I don't know how hard it would be, Rob, for you to read. If you would like to share anything, no. We'll find a way though, like if you telepathically, or if you text me, Dr. Cindy Lee, you have my number. But let us know. We would love to share some way for the online community as well.
And as you're sharing, don't feel led to share to us. Share to the people. Share with one another. And I can pass a mic to whoever, but when you're standing, just speak to everybody. You don't have to face the pulpit. Yeah,
But
I'll bring a mic to you.
You need a mic because we want the
to you.
online familia to also get to hear.
Simone said she would be a runner of the microphone as well.
Yes, Simone.
Yes.
Go Simone.
Anybody have something that is coming to mind? This is the place where?
I didn't actually expect to be emotional, which is kind of weird because I haven't been here that long. But a few of you know this is a place that has allowed me to hold the complexities of faith and cancer. And I haven't been met by cliches. I've been met with tremendous grace. And in a deep season of difficult health, I experienced the extraordinary in the ordinary with a simple word from Bobby that was just stay. So it's been very meaningful.
This is the place where I finally heard a sermon about the midwives in the Bible. Praises.
Halle. That was it? You have 180 more characters.
Good evening, church. As I was thinking about this prompt, I was just reflecting back on my life overall. I thought about how at one point I didn't know who God was, and I learned who God was. At a church that was instrumental in my faith, I didn't know what it was to have a relationship with God, and so that was where I learned what relationship with God really meant. And I feel like at this church, this is where I've learned what community truly is, what a beloved community truly looks like. So I feel like God has just taken me on this journey of just forming me in such a way that I'm in these spaces where I'm learning something new every step of my journey of faith. And I feel like as I've transitioned from my last church, that I've let go of what church is, and I've learned what community looks like. So thank you, Bobby and Dennis.
If any of our younger people in the room also feel led to share, you're more than welcome. We'd love to hear your voices. Middle school, high schoolers, we'd love to hear your voices as well.
Hello, familia. I could say so much. This is a place where I met my familia. I walked in, a year and a half ago or so, and it was my first Ash Wednesday. And I was like, is this Christian? Am I going to be disowned by my family as a whole? Yeah, I got some opinions on that. But this is where I have expanded, and I have grieved, and I have cried, and I have laughed and celebrated. This is where I danced with my pastora with a mariachi in the middle of service.
And this is where I saw that there was wine at our Easter, and then we did a Drop It Low Beyond challenge as a family for like an Instagram thing. This is where I have had so much joy, and this is where I have found hope for what church can be.
I have a silly story connected to Jennifer. This is where I learned that I was not losing my mind. That one Sunday when I said, y'all remember I was up here preaching or doing communion, I can't remember, and I thought I saw something back there. Do y'all remember I was like, did y'all see something? Like I saw this shadow, but everyone was like, no, you're just going crazy. But then Jennifer was like, Pastora, I did see something. There was a rat that came out from back there, and you were preaching, and the rat went like, and saw you, and like back. And I would like to think that that was a patriarchy. Hey. And we were like, hey, you better back
Get
that
back
thing
Satan.
up. You better back that thing up.
Amen.
Listen. Everybody just went, pick your feet up, right? We're going to leave our little friends back here. Mother Glenn.
Hallelujah. Buenas tardes. In honor of, do they say Hispanic Month still? Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, but anyway, I think I know almost everybody here. There are some new faces that I have not met, but I'm excited to see the church we hope for, the church I hope for, growing. And I sent Sarah, did you get it? We were talking about this song, and I found this song in this black church. And you remember what I said? I said, ooh, girl, sometimes I miss black church, because they were singing and they were getting down. And y'all know I like to dance, okay? And so I love that. That's my past, because I'm black. But this is the church that I feel that resembles God and what he intends more than the church I loved in the past. You understand? I have, since coming to this church, well, first of all, I became Mother Glenda, which was a shock. But I guess I am Mother Glenda, because I hold that name with much honor these days, because I have so many spiritual daughters and sons in this church. And when I came here, I only had one vanilla child, and that was Bobby, and one caramel daughter, and that was Inez. But now I look at this church and talk about diversity. We're a church of justice, and that's the church I hope for. And justice, because God is a God of justice. And even though, I'm gonna tell you, after that feast, oh, it's gone. I started looking for Filipino restaurants, because I had never eaten anything so good in my life. I found one and I thought, oh yeah, this is it. But then I went back and they had changed the menu, and I said, okay, that's it. That's the end of that. But when you look around in this church, there are so many representations of who God is. And then I came in here, I don't remember, y'all was singing something about the Song of Colors, and I caught pieces of it, and it was like God loves all the different colors, because he created all the colors. He created me the way I look, he created you the way you look, and I'm sorry, but you don't look any better than I look. I probably look better than you. But this church is a church I hope for. This church is a church of the pastors I hope for. I told him that one time. I think it made him kind of nervous. But, what? Yes, because in this church, Inez said it. She said the house, they open the mic. It's like open mic here at this church. There are people coming in from places I had never heard of. She's giving the mic to people in our church. And it's a church of acceptance. I love that more than anything. I know that I can go to my pastors and say anything, and I have, huh? I have. And they didn't condemn me. They allow me to have an opinion, because everybody's got one. Some people just don't talk about it. I'm one of those who do. But I just want to say to Bobby, Inez, and to my familia, you know, I don't like to cry either, Becca, because you know I'm a strong black woman, and I cry a lot. But I just want to say to you that I love you all so much. There are people in here I don't know, but I'm looking forward to knowing you as well. And don't be afraid to come and say hi to me. I'm not, I look intimidating, but I'm really not. I'm a softie. And I think all of us, I'm talking too long. I'm getting ready to shut up. I think all of us are in the right place. And the fact that I know that so many people came from brokenness in the churches that should not have been, child, you have found your home. You have found your place of acceptance. You have found your place of love. You have found a place that revered justice, not just for some, but for all. And why? Because God is a God of justice. And Psalm 89:14, right? The pillars of God's thrones are righteousness and justice. So if you don't embrace justice, I'm sorry, but you're not embracing God. Because, and this is not judgment. This is what the word says. For God is love. He that loveth not God, hello, I'm gonna leave it there.
Well, I'm going to follow my mother here. And when we first walked into this sanctuary before this was going to be our church home, I remember being struck by this stained glass. And I feel like what has been true about this place is this is a place where brokenness can be beautiful. That when we allow God's light to shine through our disappointments, our church hurt, life in general, not working out how we had hoped, that God can do something, not just individually, but collectively. So this is a place where I learned that church could be bigger and different than what I had previously experienced. And in that first day when we came here, I recited a poem by Jan Richardson that talks about brokenness and that every scrap, every shard, every shred, when surrendered to God, can become beautiful. So the fact that we're doing a tapestry on our last day here feels like God taking some of the scraps and the good parts and bringing them with us into our new space. It's also a place where I learned that someone like me could preach. And last night I was out with some folks from the church, and one of them said, like, oh, you need to preach that. And so I'm just gonna share very briefly. I was at a silent retreat this summer, kind of wrestling with some disappointment. And the little old lady that was my spiritual director asked me if I had heard of the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. And I was like, well, I don't speak Aramaic, so no. And she's like, well, I have an English copy for you. And she said, you know, where it says, forgive us our sins or our trespasses, what Jesus actually said to his disciples was, help us untie the knots that bind us as we release the threads we hold of others' faults. And this tapestry to me in the sanctuary today is part of untying the knots of my expectation that this would be our church space, that this would be, like, help me untie the knot, Lord, that made me think that this space was what church was about. Because church is about all of us collectively, wherever we land, working together. That it's not just me that unties the knots individually, but it's all of us together. And my spiritual director's like, you have to ask for help to untie some knots, Sarah. And I was like, oh, I do? So those are just a couple reflections, but I'm excited to pick up where we leave off today and to continue doing this church, not in a building, but together with each of you.
Eleanor in the chat, as she's watching live, she said, this is the church where my practical needs were met in a way that made me feel like they were just as important as my spiritual needs. This was a church where my practical needs, money for food, were met in just such a way that were as important as my spiritual needs. I was also thinking of Eleanor, and I was thinking of Jed, and I was thinking of Rocio, and I was thinking about the physical needs, the spiritual needs, and the mental health needs. And that this is a church that even on a Sunday dedicated a whole time to setting apart time and space to hear from mental health practitioners about the integration of faith and mental health. And then this is actually super sweet. Rocio, I remember that day you mentioning that you had a poem that you wanted to read at the end. And I just thought, well, that's beautiful. I know that poet. And then that poet is here today. Ariel Astoria shared this poem called The Art of Feeling. And that was the poem that you shared at the end of that service that day. And I just think that that's so beautiful how God knits things like that together. So, Ari, great to have you. Thank you.
So I'm thinking, oh, thank you. Oh, love you, Mindy. I think one of the biggest things for me, coming from being a preacher's kid and being in ministry since I was voluntoed, is having a lot of church hurt and really kind of struggling because feeling like, how do I belong? Where do I have my voice? Am I a little too much for people? Because I can be a little too much. But I remember first getting started doing Zoom, and it was in between literally 20 minutes because I was caregiving, and taking moments to just to click on and watch, and having to click off because I would just start crying because it was hitting to needs, hitting realness, hitting components where you could walk in and just feel connected and seen and loved and cared for. And even in this moment, when I walked in and seen the artistic ways that we engage with our senses is so awesome, and it's such a temptation for me to say, oh gosh, what if I mess it up? What if it's not going to be as great? What if it's not going to be as perfect? And just the beauty that is the collaborative nature that we're going to come alongside. And it's not about the things that have to feel like you have to have it all together. And I know we always say that, but sometimes you struggle. And even for someone being single and an adult orphan and alone, it's sometimes like, oh crap, there's no one here with me. But even our carpools together, that we call car confessionals, because we definitely have car confessionals. But even this collaborative nature is just the connection that I'm so thankful for this church. That it's worth driving 40 plus miles every week, any day of the week, I would be here. So I'm very thankful.
I'm fine. I was, for the year before we started here in person, I was with one other fellow elder, a death doula for a church that had to end. And where y'all were like seating on Zoom, we were kind of like, I guess dying is the right word, but it's really dark. But we were ending on Zoom, and so when I came here, I mean, having to tell people like, we're too small to continue. Like, you love this church, but it's too small and we can't afford a pastor. Like, this is it. Now what? So coming here, I couldn't like be in the service. It was too hard. So I would go hang out with the kids, and that's what you want, right? You want like someone with your kids who just can't be in a sermon. I know Nicole knows what I'm talking about. I heard you. And you know what? Like, Amy was my preacher. And I'm telling you, like, her sermons in there, which are interrupted 100 times. So you have not met a pastor until you've met someone who can be interrupted 100 times while they're preaching to children. And I just felt so restored by the lessons, like the really simple but like super deep, and like the way you would sort of like grow little progressive Christians, you know? That's kind of like what we're doing over there. I don't know if you guys knew. That's what we're working on. It's really important work. So I just want to thank you personally, but that was a really healing space. It was like I couldn't be with adults, but I can always, you know, be with kids. And then when we got to start under construction, name still under construction with middle school and high school, I think the thing that I learned from teaching high schoolers for 8 years is that like the only thing you can do to build trust is just be there and 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 be there. And so that's what I did. And I'll never forget like those moments of connection with, you know, somebody like calling you over or saying hi first. I won't name names because then that'll blow up my spot and I won't be cool anymore. So I'm just really grateful for the young people of this church and for Amy and all the fellow folks that serve in that space, because without you, I don't think I could have come every week.
This is the place for me where I really just first not only felt fully accepted, but encouraged and honestly inspired to really explore my faith and encouraged to deconstruct and reconstruct and to ask questions, and honestly just to not know a lot of the times, and that's okay. And it's also really special to me because I was looking for a church like this for a really, 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 really long time. And it's the place where I not only first heard an ordained female pastor preach, period, but preach about how I am made in the image of my mother, God, and in that sense, and just how healing that's been for me as a woman to just feel like all of me is beautiful and that I'm not just, you know, a side copy of something that I don't have words for it, but it's been more meaningful than I can say, so thank you.
So just for context, my family is from Guatemala, and this is the place where I saw a Guatemalan pastor preach up here for the first time, a Guatemalan female pastor. And I wept the entire service, and I couldn't say what she talked about, but the fact that she was up there was preaching to me, and something that was really powerful for me was that she was speaking first in Spanish and saying, like everybody else, like you can hold on to, like I'm gonna speak Spanish first and then you'll get to translation. And I just think in churches I have always usually felt like I'm the one that has to wait, and to be put first was just, I couldn't do anything other than weep the whole time. So this is a space of where I feel seen beyond what I can offer, but for my cultural identity as well.
Hello, I'm another Sarah. The first time I was in this space, it was a Disciples of Christ church. I grew up Disciples of Christ. I grew up in the main line, happy, 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 flowers and rainbows and little fuzzy animals going into the ark, and didn't have any kind of traumatic experience. And I was in Fuller Seminary getting my MDiv in 2018, and I walked into this space, which is a Disciples of Christ space, which is how I grew up, and I knew this was going to be my church. I was going to take over this church when I got ordained, and I was going to stand in this pulpit with these beautiful stained glass windows. And a lot of life happened, and I ended up kind of officially dropping the MDiv program halfway through, and my life took a different path, and I got into some different kind of ministry experiences, and started going to another church. And then that church got tricky for me, and I had not had a tricky church experience ever. And so I guess I was super lucky to reach midlife without one. But I knew I started getting the feeling like it was time to look for another church, and my friend Sarah, because this is a church that attracts Sarahs like moths to the flame, invited me here, and I was like, I don't know, I think it's like a bunch of recovering evangelicals, and I don't think I don't think it's like my scene, but you know what, like I want to come and see what's going on. I knew Inez from Fuller, and I came in, and I'm like, we'll just come once and see, and we'll just visit, and we're going to visit a whole bunch of churches, so I'll just be here once. So we came, and the first Sunday I had a lot of feelings, and a lot of emotions to come into a place. I thought my path was to lead a church and to be in the sanctuary leading a congregation. And in the middle of this service, what I realized was, if I had started at this church, and this was a church, the Disciples Church went out, I think it disbanded during COVID. It didn't survive COVID, and that's kind of how we ended up getting this building. I would have been out of a job. That would have been not a great situation for a single mom in Southern California. And so just sitting here that first Sunday and feeling kind of the protection of the way that our paths go, and we have no idea why they're going that way, but like God is weaving our paths together, and there for us, and we don't know it. And then coming up to the communion table, communion has been so sacred to me my whole life. And Inez gave me a huge hug holding the two communion. I was like, that is some pastor ninja stuff, holding two communion, and then
Mom's
fully
multitasking.
Embracing. Wow, like you were really happy to see me, and I felt really happy to be here. And on the way home, Eden said to me, Mom, can we go back to that church? I love it there. When can we go back to that church? Because Miss Amy is magic, and because everybody is very welcoming. And I was like, okay, yeah, go back another time. And so I went back another time. I was just resistant, right? I just had a lot of emotions coming into this sanctuary and dealing with the fact that, I wasn't pastoring, and my life took this other path, and I kept coming back, and I kept coming back. And I met with Bobby and Inez, and I said, I don't really think I'm, I don't really think I need to heal. And the thing is I really did need to heal. I really did need to heal in this church in a very particular way to me. That might have looked different than the way, but we're all recovering from something, and it doesn't have to be church abuse. We're all recovering from something, and we're all on a journey towards something. And so for me, I learned in this space, I suppose parish ministry wasn't for me at this time, but gosh, it sure as heck was for Bobby, and it sure as heck was for Inez. And I very rarely go to churches as someone who, thinks that I'm an aspiring pastor without sort of thinking through the service, like, oh, I would have done it differently this way, or I would have made this point. I never think that in this church. I am like strapping on in the back seat, so happy you guys are in the driver's seat, so happy to be in this pew and not in this pulpit, and so happy with who was, and that transformation, like that end part of my seminary journey that didn't finish. I think it finished here, and I stopped kind of coming and feeling weird or feeling confused about my journey, and I just started feeling really happy, like really, really happy to be happily strapped in to the back of wherever the heck you guys are driving. I'm like all in. I love it. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. One of the Sarahs. Alex. Where's the other mic? Oh, you. Yeah.
Good afternoon, church. I just want to name my wonderful girlfriend here. Just pointed out that none of the guys has shared this afternoon, so, except Bobby, obviously, yes. Yeah, as a graduate school psychology student, I found that really interesting, just something to think about, right? Okay, so this is a place where I, for the first time, feel emotionally and spiritually safe. I think Bobby named that in his little sharing. Yeah, so the first time I visited this church was right after the Monterey Park shooting. That was a very devastating, heartbreaking event for the community, the Asian community here. I was not in the right space to attend church that Sunday. Came here and noticed that the whole service changed, made it to a space to grieve, to lament, to support one another. I cried uncontrollably. That's also never happened to me in any church settings. And I think tears are powerful. Pastor Bobby cries all the time, which I love. Every time you cry, I cry somehow. So I think normalizing crying in church, that's also another beautiful way to do church. Yeah, and then just meeting Inez after the service, we're talking, never feel so personal with the pastors. And we emphasize that we are a church familia. I think it's so easy and common to talk about the idea of family in many different congregations, communities, but I think if you want to actually embody that, safety and security is something that's very important. Everyone has different experiences with family. The word family could look really different for everyone. There's dysfunction in the family, there are heartbreaking things, but there's also healing. And I think for us to do learning and growing together, safety and security is an important foundation. And so I'm grateful for this church to be a place of both emotional and spiritual safety. Yeah.
Hi. This church has been a place where I felt the power of testimonio. Add me to the list of people that cried the entire time I was here for the first time. We were kind of looking for a church, not really sure where we were going to land, and then came here and sat right over there, and you shared your story, which down to some very specific details is my story. Freshly, when I came, it had been maybe a couple years since I lost my dad, and you had lost yours earlier, and I don't know what it takes to get up and share your story, but I felt so safe being here, knowing that someone else alive knew what I had felt, much less my pastor. And then we kept coming and people kept sharing, and I don't know what it takes for any of you to get up there and share. I'm having a hard time right now. But for everyone that's gotten up and said, this is hard to do, and I don't know why they asked me, and I don't really want to do this, and then shared part of your life, like I always hoped that was true, that we go through these horrible, horrible sufferings, and then God makes a way for our sufferings to touch others. And now I know that it is, so thank you.
I was about to go through the whole service without crying. And
this is a place where I am learning so much from the way you both lead. I love your sermons, but what I just can't get over is the way you two are like Jesus, just stepping out of the limelight again and again and letting others step in. I'm so impressed and so grateful for that, because what it is teaching me is that when the margins are centered, it makes me, this white woman, belong too. And I've just never experienced that before. So grateful for both of you and for everyone who's a part of that.
Thank you to each and every one of you. Oh, Mike, go.
We needed another guy to say something, I think so. We saw from the get-go that this is the place where Jesus and the Spirit leads the church to have us learn from each other and to give and receive communion from each other. And it's not a place that's just designed to be this sage on the stage, although we're thankful for the God-directed wisdom that we do have up front. And after about 2 weeks here, I also saw that this would be the place where my bride for life, Janet, would have a voice that she did not have in church in the 40 years that we've been married here. So we're so very thankful for those Spirit-led things that occur here.
I love those last words, Mike. The Spirit-led things of what's happening here. Thank you all, each and every one of you, for sharing. Yes, somebody. Caleb, you got the mic? Or somebody else has a mic?
For me, I feel like this has been the place where I've learned how to be held again. I always find it amazing how many people here are in helping professions or doing so many things to care for others. I know for me, in a lot of past spaces, it's just been care for others, care for others, care for others, but not be held myself. And I think it's beautiful of this community how, even with how much this community in our individual lives across the board, but also as a church, care for people, we also hold space for each other as well, which I feel like should be a given, but is really special and unique, and has changed the way that I've understood that and understood myself.
Hello, my name is Jason, for those I have not met. This is the place where my son went from crawling to walking. It's the place where, instead of being a disruption to the service, it was a spiritual interruption, specifically chasing him as people were throwing flour on the stage, and just people telling me about how that was just the moment that they were encountering the Spirit. It's the place where I have figured out how to lead worship in new ways together with the congregation, and a place where it's safe to try new things, like stumble through Spanish lyrics. And also it's the place where I think my family went from wanting to, for those that have been new at a church, you know, the moment that a service ends, like you can't wait to leave because that's the most anxious part, and we were anxious as well, to a year would pass and we'd look at our clock and we're like, oh my God, it's 6:45. Like, we were talking with people for 30 minutes, like, and just staying. And so going from not having community in LA to having community is memories and things that I'll take from this building and place.
I love our familia. Is Sam going to say something? No, yes, okay. I wasn't sure. Familia, this is such a special moment, and I'm so glad that we got it recorded because I want to listen to the stories again. This is such a community-informed place. This place would not exist without the people. And so as I lead us into communion, just one last time in this place, as we know, there's agua fresca instead of grape juice, there's plantain chips. I want us to remember this moment and finish with these words one more time. That on the night that Jesus was betrayed, tomó pan or a churro. La noche que Jesús fue traicionado, tomó pan o un churro. lo partió y dio gracias y dijo, este es mi cuerpo que por ustedes es partido, hagan esto en memoria de mí. Y después de haber cenado, tomó también la copa, que es su sangre, la copa de amor hacia nosotros, y dijo, esta es la copa de amor para ustedes, y cada vez que coman de este pan y beban de esta copa, la muerte mía anuncian hasta que yo regresen. So familia, we have an open table, and all bodies are welcome, and all the burdens connected to your body are welcome to come into this place. And so I'm going to ask Pastor Bobby to come forward, and one last time we're going to share communion here. You'll come up and get the elements and return to your seats, and we're going to take the elements together, the agua fresca and the plátanos. Amen.
Together and worship the Lord. Todos juntos.
have the elements, you may take the body of Christ and the blood of Christ.
Just briefly, if you would like to be connected to us in some way, you can reach out to us, Bobby or Inez at thechurchwehopefor.com. You can also download the Church Center app. There's info about community groups, small groups that are happening this fall in that space as well. It's also a space where you can give if you feel so led. We say that we invite you to give generously, joyfully, sacrificially, as the Spirit would move you to do so, not by compulsion or pressure in any sort of way. All right, a big announcement that I'd love to share with you guys is that next week we will not be in this space. We will be at Casa Grande, 4 blocks north. Beautiful how God knit all of that together. Last week we had an open house space. So we came, we met here, we moved with our feet, we walked, we sojourned up the sidewalk 4 blocks together, and then we made our way into that upstairs fellowship hall. And I want to use the language upstairs there because it's important in what I'm going to share here. As we envisioned ourselves in that space, we envisioned ourselves in that fellowship hall. As we gathered in that fellowship hall and heard the voices of our people said, what about that sanctuary downstairs? And so what we did is we reached back out to the leadership at Conexión Pasadena and Pasadena Mennonite Church, and we said, the fellowship hall is great. What would it look like for us to be in the sanctuary instead? And they said, well, let us go back to the drawing board and think about that and get back to you. So they got back to us this weekend, and they said, the sanctuary is yours if you would like it. I want you to know that sometimes God has a vision and a prayer that he invites the leadership to see, but then God speaks through the people. And the people say, we want to be in the sanctuary. We want accessibility to be a primary concern, that nobody will have to go upstairs to enter into a sanctuary in this church. And so, that said, for 2 weeks we'll be in the fellowship hall while they're getting the sanctuary ready for us. And so as they're preparing the sanctuary for these next 2 weeks, we're going to begin our sojourn in that fellowship hall. And then we are going to migrate downstairs, and we're going to have a sanctuary that for the first time we'll be the only ones worshiping in that sanctuary. And so it'll begin to become our own in new and beautiful ways. So thank you for your reflecting your voices, your cares, your concerns back to us. Thank you for entrusting that to us. And then I hope and pray that we will just blow the roof off that sanctuary when it's time to worship there. So we'll see you next week at the Fellowship Hall Casa Grande. But first, Pastora.
We are not done, not done. Don Guillermo, ¿me puede escuchar? Ok, ahorita le doy, deme 30 segundos. So for those of you who have not been here before, you know that mariachi for us is an act of worship. And mariachi is not just a musical phenomenon. With mariachi, especially for those of us who come from Latinx, Latina, Hispanic culture, mariachi marks moments, and important moments and meaningful moments in our lives. We have mariachis when there's a funeral, we have mariachis when there's a birthday, mariachis when there's a quinceañera, mariachis when you're trying to, marry that other person, whatever partner, you send them a mariachi to sing to you. They did that to me one time, but I married Rob. That's right. You do owe me a mariachi. And so we decided to do that last year. Y'all remember that we did mariachi. So mariachi is just going to be a rule of life, a spiritual practice in our church. And we thought, what better way to leave one place and go to another than to mark and create a core memory in our life. And so we'd like to share with you a piece of us. A piece of Latinx culture. Specifically, this is Mexican culture. And so in Nicaragua, we don't have mariachis, but we have them on behalf of Mexico. So we love them. And so the mariachi, which I love, it's mariachi tequila. They are here. That's the church you hope for, right? Who invites mariachi tequila. Si pueden pasar adelante y cantar Cielito Lindo. ¡Ay!
All right, we are going to take a group photo in just a second up here. It's one of those photos that 30 years from now will all look really dated. We want to invite our kids care kids, and also they weren't able to share. So we have on the screen some memories from Kids Care where they said this is the place where. And so we want them to be in the photo too. So as our Kids Care crew is coming up with us, this is the place where Kids Care were able to find their first beloved community familia in this church as well. So everybody gets to be in the photo. Mariachi, we want y'all in the photo with us. Yes. Maybe tequila after the photo. But everybody, if you're able, you rise up forward, gather around here. The photography will be up there and coming down this way.
and get some aguas frescas, get some churros, and other pan dulce, and no hay pozole. But the mariachi is going to follow you, and they're going to keep playing. So you would like to go outside, or the first one's going to be.